Former Raider quarterback Derek Carr has found his new home in New Orleans after getting a deal worth $150 million with allegedly $100 million guaranteed. And Saints fans are wondering if they are now legit Super Bowl contenders. And I am here to confidently say to all of you today that they are definitely not. Now, don't get me wrong. Being in the NFC South helps. You instantly have the best quarterback. But that's like being the skinniest kid at fat camp. Shout out to Tony Perkis and his father, the Lightning King. Getting Derek Carr is like getting your first actual car. It's way better than your bicycle. And while it still works, it isn't going to be your best car. Now, there is a reason for excitement because it will be better than what Nola has had recently. Hell, it's hard to be worse. But the Saints won't reach the promised land with Derek Carr at the helm. For people saying, oh, well, now he finally has weapons. What the hell do you mean? He had weapon X in Oakland and Devontae Adams. He had Waller at tight end, Josh Jacobs, who could do multiple things out of the backfield, and Haru, the great white ninja, Hunter Renfrow at wide receiver, who's cooked more full-grown men than Jeffrey Dahmer. Now, weapons have never been a problem for Derek Carr. It's my point. He doesn't come through in the clutch because in 9 years, he has one career playoff game, and he lost it. He cries at press conferences. And to be honest, I don't think he has that dog in him when it counts. The Saints have an older roster that hasn't performed well the past couple seasons. And I get being in win now mode. But this mode will only lead to a possible playoff berth and a definite early exit. The Saints should always be in future Super Bowl mode. But it seems like nobody has time for that in the rat race in the NFL. I'm going to bring in my co-host, former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, former Western State Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crane, my brother as well. Guys, Saints, you upgraded at quarterback. But there are other holes you have to fill. I mean, you look now at the running back position with Kamara and everything that's gone down there. Mm-hmm. Michael Thomas, even though they restructured, hadn't been able to stay healthy. You have some young pieces. You're older on defense. I just don't think Derek Carr is the guy that's going to take them back to Super Bowl glory or even get to a championship game of any sort.
I think the Saints will make the playoffs with Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Super Bowl, no. Super Bowl, no.
As a Saints fan, is that acceptable, though?
Well, you lost a Hall of Fame quarterback and your Super Bowl winning coach in back-to-back seasons, right? Like, is Dennis Allen the guy who's going to lead the Saints to the promised land? I still think no, but look at the division. Just look around at the NFC South right now. I mean, Falcons, new quarterback. Bucks, new quarterback. Panthers, new quarterback and new coach. I mean, the Saints with Derek Carr, he's going to come in and be far more than serviceable to me. An upgrade from Jameis Winston for sure. An upgrade from Andy Dalton, I believe, as well. Chris Olave, I think, is going to be one of the best wide receivers in the league. Who knows what's going to happen with Michael Thomas? I don't know if the best football days are already behind Michael Thomas or if he can come back in and give, another great season or two. They do need to draft in preparation for something heavy coming down on Alvin Kamara. I don't know if he's going to be able to play football this next season.
Yeah, I think Alvin's in trouble. Blaine, when you look at Derek Carr, again, a guy that can make the throws, but when it comes down to it, he just didn't come through in the clutch. He moves the needle, but not far enough.
Doesn't come in 2015. He's had the most game-winning drives, the most comebacks in the NFL.
And made the playoffs.
No, well, you're saying it twice.
Not coming in clutch. I mean, he's been
twice, 16 and 21.
Yeah, not coming in clutch. He's been one of the clutchest guys out there.
I just could not disagree with that more. How can you not make the playoffs at least 7 out of 9 years and be considered clutch?
They've had so much turnover, though. He's had a new offensive coordinator. I mean, and Gruden was supposed to come in and be the savior. Gruden got in trouble.
I get it. But 9 years, so there's been problems for 9 straight years?
Well, Derek, I think we can all sit here and agree that Derek Carr is a good
Nobody's arguing
right?
that. The Saints don't want good, though. Saints want to win a Super Bowl.
What were your options, though, right? To get Aaron, I mean,
again.
To get Lamar, you have to give up your whole team.
And you already botched your first round pick.
And you already, if it'd be different if they had the 10th pick. If they had the 10th pick, you'd be closer to make a play in that draft to move up and get a guy.
Again, everything y'all just said, nobody's arguing. What I'm saying is, in my opinion, they chose the win now a little bit mode over building a Super Bowl team for the future mode. Again, I know they've struggled the past 2 years. They have a diminishing roster when you look at age. Just look at it. They are getting older, and they haven't performed the past couple of years. So they feel like they've got to get all the juice out of the squeeze of bringing in Derek Carr to give themselves a chance. Now, you make the playoffs, who the hell knows what can happen? Anybody can get hot for a stretch. Maybe that's what they're hoping. But in my opinion, if I'm a Saints fan, I want to build for the future. I would have rather said, you know what? We will do something at the quarterback position, whether move up to take a young guy or do something and try and build the pieces around. Because if you look, I mean, teams that are winning Super Bowls, we know how important the quarterback position is, obviously. You look at what Patrick Mahomes has done for the Chiefs. But you need a team to win a Super Bowl. And when you look down the road over the next 3 years with what the Saints have on the roster, it's time for a rebuild. And I feel like they just reached to get Derek Carr to make people happy for a couple weeks, to make the playoffs and lose in the first round.
Well, this is the way I look at it. If you're Derek Carr, all right, you're coming away from a Raiders team that didn't have a defense the entire time you're there. All the games you had to win, most of the time that you had to win in a shootout. The Raiders were giving up at least 25-plus points a game. 2, you have a lot better front office at the Saints than you had the Raiders. The Raiders front office was wild. You never knew what was going on there. You come in with a top 10 defense, right? Never had it at the Raiders. You had that at the Saints, something you can rely on, right? And you do still have weapons when it comes to your offense. You did have weapons with Raiders, but you still have weapons. And you're coming into an old team, right? This is what I kind of look at when it was between the Jets or the Saints. The Jets, extremely talented, right? Extremely talented, extremely young. Still have to learn a lot about who they are and how they play, get in the postseason and see who they are. But you come to a Saints team that's been there, older guys, extremely athletic, top 10 defense. So I think it's a lot of wins for Derek Carr. Do I think Derek Carr is going to get the Saints to the Super Bowl? No, I do not. But Derek Carr is a guy who can. The one thing I worry about Derek Carr, he has a lot of good numbers, but his touchdown to interception ratio is what scares me.
He makes bad decisions
at the end of the day.
Moments.
And at the when it comes to the quarterback in crucial moments, you can't turn the ball over.
What?
He's still one of the best. I mean, he had 29 game-winning drives, like 23 fourth-quarter comebacks. Like, there's certain times in the regular season where Derek Carr will come in clutch for your team, but I think he's a lot better off at the Saints. I feel like the Saints, this is what you had to do since you don't have a first-round pick. You had that 10th pick, and now it's gone. You'd have to give up your everything to try and go to that top 3, top 4 to try and get a guy, but you get a guy in Derek Carr to where it gives you a shot. Right? It gives you a shot, especially in that division.
Well, this could be their version of a rebuild. You're talking about they need to rebuild for the future. They could do that with Derek Carr at the helm rather than go out and pay Lamar Jackson $250 million guaranteed, who also doesn't really have a better playoff record.
Well, I just, again, though, if I say I'm gonna rebuild, I'm not going to go get a veteran quarterback to rebuild. Like, to me, that goes against the grain of putting together a championship caliber team. I feel like, obviously, you build it from the inside out. But with the quarterback position, why would you go spend $150 million on Derek Carr when maybe you could hang around and take a chance on maybe a Hendon Hooker or somebody late to
Well, they may still do something.
And they might, but after they may draft a backup. If they wanted Derek Carr to be the tutor of maybe a younger quarterback, I can understand that a lot more, and you're just eat that $150 million, I guess. I think where my argument is, maybe I'm looking at it from a more patient standpoint. I know the front office needs to win. They need to win quickly. You always do in the NFL. I just feel like they should have gone a different route if they wanted to win a Super Bowl within the next 3 to 5 years. I think they're even further behind winning a Super Bowl.
But it's not a franchise that's known for drafting quarterbacks.
That's true.
I mean, they haven't drafted one in the first couple rounds since Archie Manning.
Yeah. What's your
and the Super Bowl winning quarterback they did have, they got Drew Brees from the Chargers.
Yeah, so I think about it as like, what were your other options, realistically? Like, do you not sign a quarterback? You tank next year, win 6 games, and see the quarterbacks coming out next year and see where you are in the draft? Do you go spend a bunch of money for a guy? Or do you take a late chance in a second-round pick on somebody? So I feel like out of all the options they realistically had, I feel like this was probably their safest and best one.
Yeah, that's just where we disagree. But again, I can understand both sides of the coin. There's logical arguments on both sides. Hey, YouTube. Appreciate you checking us out, coming in and hanging with the boys, the fellas, the crew, the men, the squad, but the good kind. Make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, turn on that notification bell, ring it Quasimodo style, so you know every time we're dropping content, because we know that you know that we know you love it.